Yeah. Understood.
Blackgate Interviews number 3, Dr. Harleen Quinterview who views Slugsy Kyle, Earth 1 Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the sound of a door opening. Dr. Harleen Quinzel sits at a table inside one of Blackgate Prison's interview rooms. A folder rests in front of her. Across from her sits a man in prison clothing, Slugsy Kyle. He looks uncomfortable. Unlike some of the other prisoners Harleen has interviewed, Slugsy doesn't appear interested in intimidating her. He looks like a man who knows exactly where he is and would very much like to be somewhere else. A guard closes the door behind him. Harleen looks at her notes. "Good afternoon, Mr. Kyle." Slugsy looks at her. "Afternoon. I'm Dr. Harleen Quinzel." "I know. You've been informed that this interview is being recorded." "Yeah, and that anything you say can be added to your prison records." Slugsy sighs. "Yeah." Harleen opens her folder. "Then let's begin." Slugsy leans back. "Sure." Harleen looks at him. "Your name is Slugsy Kyle. That's what everybody calls me." "Your legal name?" He hesitates. "Slugsy Kyle." Harleen raises an eyebrow. "That's your legal name?" "Well," he scratches his head. "Technically, no. So why do you go by Slugsy?" Slugsy shrugs. "Nickname. Where did it come from?" "Long story. We have time." Slugsy looks at the clock. "Apparently I have a lot of time." Harleen smiles slightly. "Fair enough." Slugsy sighs. "Some guy started calling me that when I was a kid." "Why?" "I was slow." "Slow?" "Yeah." Harleen looks confused. "That's it?" "Pretty much." She writes something down. "So you're not actually a major crime figure." Slugsy looks offended. "Hey, sorry, I'm a criminal." "I didn't say you weren't. You made it sound like I was some nobody." Harleen looks at him. "Are you?" Slugsy thinks. "Maybe." Harleen continues looking through the file. "Your criminal history consists primarily of robbery, burglary, assault, extortion, and working for organized crime." "Sounds about right." "You've worked for several different groups." "Whoever paid." "Do you have loyalty to any of them?" "Nope." "Why?" "Because loyalty doesn't pay." Harleen nods. "Exactly." She turns a page. "Let's talk about your encounter with Batman." Slugsy's expression changes immediately. He looks away. Harleen notices. "You don't like talking about him." "Nobody likes talking about him." "Why?" Slugsy looks at her. "Because he's creepy." "Creepy?" "Yeah. He's a man in a costume." "That's what you think." Harleen studies him. "What do you think he is?" Slugsy leans forward. "I don't know." "You've seen him." "Yeah. And you still don't know what he is?" "No." He shakes his head. "That's the problem." Harleen waits. Slugsy continues. "He doesn't move like a normal guy." "What do you mean?" Stas, "You ever see a guy fall out of a window and disappear before he hits the ground?" Harleen shakes her head. "No, I have." "Batman?" Slugsy nods. "He was there 1 second. He snaps his fingers. Then gone." "Could he have escaped through another window?" "That's what I thought." "And? There wasn't another window." Harleen pauses. "You believe Batman is supernatural?" Slugsy laughs nervously. "I don't know. Do you believe he's human?" "I hope so." "Why?" "Because if he's not..." Slugsy looks toward the door. "Then we're all screwed." Harleen writes something down. "Tell me about the clock store." Slugsy's face immediately falls. "No." "Mr. Kyle, no. You were arrested after Batman confronted you." "I wasn't arrested by Batman. You were apprehended by him. That's worse." Harleen looks at him. "Why?" "He could have killed me, but he didn't." Slugsy looks at her. "That's what scares me." Harleen closes her folder slightly. "Why would that scare you?" "Because he could have." Slugsy leans forward. "He had me." "Completely?" "Yeah." "He could have killed you." "Yeah, but he didn't." "No, why?" Slugsy looks down. "I don't know." Harleen studies him. "What happened?" Slugsy sighs. "I was robbing the place." "The clock store?" "Yeah. I had a couple of guys with me. What happened to them? They ran, and you. I wasn't fast enough." Harleen raises an eyebrow. Slugsy sighs. "Yeah." He looks embarrassed. "Then I heard something." "What?" "A sound." "What kind?" "Ticking." Harleen waits. "Like a clock?" "Yeah. And then?" I turned around. Slugsy's expression becomes serious. "He was standing there." "Batman?" "Yeah." "What did you do?" "I pulled my gun." Harleen looks at the file. "You fired?" "Once." "And?" "He disappeared." Harleen pauses. "Again?" "Where?" "I don't know." Slugsy rubs his face. "That's the thing about him." "What?" "You can't predict where he's going to be." Harleen asks, "What happened next?" "He hit me." "Where?" Face. Hard? Slugsy gives her a look. Have you ever been punched by Batman? No. Then don't ask if it was hard. Harleen almost smiles. Fair enough. Slugsy continues. I woke up hanging from a light post with a note. Yeah, Harleen checks her notes. The note read, the time is out for Slugsy Kyle. Slugsy nods. Yeah, what did you think that meant? That Batman was crazy. Why? Who talks like that? Harleen smiles. Batman, apparently. Slugsy shakes his head. That's the problem. Harleen closes the folder. Do you regret what you did? Slugsy looks at her. Which thing? Your crimes. He thinks some. Some? Yeah. Which ones? Slugsy looks down. People I hurt. You're not sorry for everything. I didn't say that. He looks back at her. I'm sorry for a lot of things. Do you think you can change? Slugsy laughs quietly. Can I? That's not what I asked. He thinks for a moment. Maybe. Do you want to? Slugsy looks at the table. I don't want to spend my whole life in here. Harleen nods. So you want to change because you're afraid of prison? Does it matter why? It might. Slugsy looks at her. Then maybe I'm not as good a person as you're looking for. Harleen closes the folder. Mr. Kyle, he looks up. You don't have to be a good person to decide to become a better one. Slugsy remains silent. Harleen stands. That's all for today. Slugsy looks toward the door. Doctor? Harleen stops. Yes? Do you really think Batman is a good guy? Harleen looks back at him. I think that's a complicated question. Slugsy nods. Yeah. He looks down. That's what I figured. The guard opens the door. Slugsy stands. Before leaving, he looks at Harleen one more time. Just one thing. What? If you ever see him, Harleen waits. Don't turn your back. The door closes. Harleen looks down at her notes. She writes one final observation. Subject displays significant fear regarding Batman. Unlike previous subjects, fear appears genuine rather than performative. Subject also demonstrates limited remorse regarding criminal activities, though he expresses willingness to change. She stops writing, then adds, subject believes Batman is not entirely human. Harleen looks toward the closed door. The recording ends. Blackgate Interviews Number 4. Dr. Jonathan Crane, interview with Jacob Packer. The Ripper Copycat Earth 1 Saga, 1 God's Monsters and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the sound of a tape recorder clicking on. A red light turns on. The interview room is quiet. Dr. Jonathan Crane sits on one side of the table. He is younger than the man he will eventually become. At this point, he is simply a psychiatrist conducting evaluations for Blackgate Prison. Across from him sits Jacob Packer, former mayor of Gotham City, former friend of Thomas Wayne, and now a convicted murderer who had attempted to recreate the crimes of Jack the Ripper. Packer's wrists are secured to the table. Crane opens a thin file. He looks at Packer. Good afternoon, Mr. Packer. Packer doesn't answer. Crane waits. Would you like some water? No. Coffee? No. Tea? Packer looks at him. Do you always offer prisoners beverages before asking them why they killed people? Crane smiles. Only when I'm trying to be polite. Packer looks away. Crane opens the file. For the record, please state your full name. Jacob Packer. And your former position? Mayor of Gotham City. Former mayor. Yes. Do you understand why you're here? Packer looks directly at him. Because I killed people. That's part of it. Packer's expression hardens. Then why don't you tell me the other part? Crane closes the file. Batman. Packer becomes completely still. Crane notices. Blackgate Interviews Number 4. Dr. Jonathan Crane, interview with Jacob Packer. Earth 1 Saga. 1. God's Monsters and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the sound of a tape machine clicking on. A Blackgate guard closes the interview room door. Dr. Jonathan Crane sits across from Jacob Packer. Packer's hands are restrained to the table. His expensive mayoral clothes are long gone. He wears a Blackgate prison uniform. His hair is disheveled. His eyes are wide, and he keeps smiling. Crane places a folder on the table. He doesn't open it. He simply studies Packer. State your name for the recording. Packer looks at him. Jacob Packer. And your former occupation? I was the mayor of Gotham City. Former? Packer laughs. Yes. Crane finally opens the folder. You murdered several women. Packer's smile disappears. They weren't innocent. That's not what I said. They were prostitutes. That doesn't answer my question. and they were destroying Gotham. Crane leans back. You believe you were doing Gotham a favor? I know I was. Interesting. Packer looks at him. You're not like the other doctor. Dr. Quinzel? She wanted to know why. And I don't? No. Crane smiles. I want to know what you were afraid of. Packer's expression changes. I wasn't afraid. Everyone is afraid of something. I'm not. Then why did you become Jack the Ripper? Packer stares at him. For several seconds, he says nothing. Then he smiles. Because Gotham needed him. Crane makes a note. Jack the Ripper died more than a century ago. Did he? Crane looks up. You believe he survived? No. Then what do you mean? Packer leans forward. I became him. Crane nods slowly. And why? Because somebody had to. Crane studies him. Let's talk about Batman. Packer suddenly laughs. Batman? Yes, he's not real. Crane pauses. That's interesting, isn't it? Why do you say that? Packer leans back. It's because you understand. Crane smiles. I believe Batman is a psychological phenomenon. Packer looks at him. A what? A fear. Packer starts laughing. Crane continues. The criminals of Gotham created him. Packer stops laughing. You don't believe he exists? No. Then what happened at my mansion? Fear. Packer's smile returns. He was there. According to you. He pinned me to the floor. According to you. He broke my phone. According to you. He knew everything. Crane closes his folder. And yet you can't explain how he entered your mansion. Packer's eyes widen. He came through the window. Did you see him? Yes. Clearly? Yes. Did you see his face? Packer hesitates. No. Did you see him leave? Yes. How? Packer looks confused. He disappeared. Crane smiles. Exactly. Packer leans forward. He's real. No. He was frightened. I wasn't frightened. Crane raises an eyebrow. You were found hiding inside your own home. I wasn't hiding. You were pinned to the floor. I was attacked. You couldn't reach your telephone. Because he broke it. You couldn't escape. Because he stopped me. Crane smiles. Because you were afraid. Packer suddenly slams his hands against the table. I wasn't afraid. The guard outside looks through the window. Crane remains completely calm. Packer breathes heavily. Crane waits. Eventually, Packer sits back down. Crane speaks quietly. You created Batman. Packer stares at him. No. You needed something to blame. No. You needed a monster. Packer shakes his head. He was there. You were already obsessed with monsters. Packer looks at him. Jack the Ripper. Yes. You wanted to become him. Yes. Why? Packer's expression becomes almost peaceful because he understood. Understood what? That some people don't deserve to live. Crane watches him. Those women. Packer smiles. They were corrupt. They were prostitutes. Exactly. That doesn't make them evil. They sold themselves. That doesn't make them evil. They were poisoning Gotham. You don't know that. I knew. How? They were part of the sickness. Crane writes something down. Packer continues. They used men. They lied. They destroyed families. They deserved what happened. You don't feel remorse? No. Not even for one? No. Why? Packer looks directly at him. Because I was right. Crane sits back. Do you hear voices? Packer's eyes narrow. No. Do you see things other people don't? Sometimes. What? Packer smiles. Batman. Crane shakes his head. Again, he watches. From where? Everywhere. The windows? Sometimes. Rooftops? Sometimes. Shadows? Always. Crane smiles. That's fear. Packer looks confused. What? Batman. Crane leans forward. He's the perfect manifestation of fear. Packer stares at him. You criminals talk about him like he's a monster. Crane gestures toward Packer. You made him a monster. I didn't make him. Yes, you did. No. You needed a monster because you became one yourself. Packer suddenly laughs. A quiet laugh. A quiet laugh. Then it grows louder. You really believe that? I know that. Packer leans forward. Then tell me something, Doctor. If Batman isn't real, Packer smiles. Why are you afraid of him? Crane's smile disappears. For the first time during the interview, he says nothing. Packer begins laughing again. Crane regains his composure. I am not afraid of Batman. Everyone is. Not me. That's what everyone says. Crane closes the folder. Interview concluded. Packer looks at him. Doctor? Crane stands. Packer smiles. You'll see him. Crane pauses at the door. See who? Packer whispers. Batman. The door opens. The guards enter. Packer is escorted away. Crane watches him disappear down the hallway. The door closes. The recording continues. Crane sits alone. He looks at his notes. Subject demonstrates severe delusional thinking, obsessive behavior, violent ideological fixation, and complete lack of remorse. He pauses, then writes, subject should be housed in a psychiatric institution, not a conventional prison. Crane looks toward the one-way mirror. Batman. He shakes his head. A fear. He closes the folder. A collective hallucination. The tape continues recording. Crane stands, but as he walks toward the door, he glances at the darkened observation window. For just a moment, he thinks he sees two white eyes staring back. Crane stops. Nothing is there. He exhales, then quietly says, fear. The recording ends.
The Batman.
Blackgate Interviews number 5. The Batman Question Earth 1 Saga. 1 God's Monsters and Mortals, Part 1. Mortals 1.2, Part 1. The recording begins with the sound of a tape machine clicking on. Dr. Hugo Strange sits behind his desk inside the Blackgate Prison Administration wing. He is the director of Blackgate Prison. A recorder sits between him and the camera. Strange adjusts his glasses. Blackgate Prison Interview Archive, Director Hugo Strange speaking. He opens a folder. Following the recent interviews conducted by Dr. Harleen Quinzel and Dr. Jonathan Crane, several subjects remain unavailable for further psychological evaluation. He turns a page. Former inmate Anders Overbeck has been released from Blackgate. Another page. Former inmate known as the Actuary has also been released. Another. Former inmate William St. James has likewise been released. Strange closes the folder. The 3 men were released before the psychiatric department could conduct formal interviews. He picks up another file. The individual known as the Archer presents a different situation. Strange reads from the file. Arrested following an attempted assassination of Gotham's mayor. Subject was subsequently transferred to the custody of the Metropolis Police Department. He places the file down. None of our doctors were given sufficient time to interview him. Strange looks toward the camera. This is unfortunate, he pauses, particularly because the Archer was another individual who claimed to have encountered Batman. Strange folds his hands. The same supposed vigilante who appears repeatedly throughout the criminal population of Gotham. He looks at the files. Some claim he is a man. Others claim he is a creature. Some claim he can disappear. Others claim he can fly. Strange smiles faintly. The consistency of the stories is questionable. He turns off the recorder. Hash Part 2. The Blackgate Prison Lounge is crowded. Several doctors sit around a table. Dr. Harleen Quinzel is among them. So is Dr. Jonathan Crane. A few other prison psychologists sit nearby. The conversation has already become heated. One doctor shakes his head. I've interviewed 6 prisoners who claim they've seen Batman. Harleen looks at him. And they all describe something different. Crane smiles. Exactly. Harleen looks at him. You've been saying that since the first interview. Because it's true. Crane leans back. Batman isn't real. One of the doctors asks, then what are they seeing? Fear. Harleen shakes her head. That's an assumption. It's a psychological pattern. Crane gestures around the room. Look at the evidence. Every criminal describes him differently. Every story becomes more exaggerated. Every prisoner claims Batman is something beyond human. Crane smiles. That's because they're frightened. Harleen folds her arms. Or because he's deliberately frightening them. Crane looks at her. And you believe he's real? I believe we don't have enough evidence to say he isn't. Crane laughs. That's exactly what fear does. Harleen looks at him. What? It creates something to explain what you don't understand. Another doctor joins in. Maybe Batman is just an urban legend. Exactly. Crane nods. The criminals created him. Harleen looks toward the window. Then explain the physical evidence. What physical evidence? Broken weapons. Injuries. People left hanging from buildings. None of that proves Batman exists. No. Harleen looks back at Crane. But it proves someone is doing it. Crane smiles. Someone. He emphasizes the word. Exactly. The doctors begin arguing again. One says Batman is a criminal. Another says he's a vigilante. Someone else suggests Batman might be several people working together. Crane remains confident. Batman is an idea. Harleen responds, an idea doesn't punch people. Crane smiles. Fear can make people do extraordinary things. The discussion continues. Across the lounge, a Blackgate warden storms into the room. He looks furious. Have any of you figured out how Garfield Linz escaped? Everyone becomes quiet. The warden slams a folder onto the table. Because I haven't. Harleen looks at the folder. Firefly? Yes, he caused a fire. We know that. He somehow got through the prison during the evacuation. We know that too. Then what's the problem? The warden stares at her. The problem is that he's still gone. Silence. He escaped weeks ago. The warden points toward the folder. And nobody has found him. Crane smiles. Perhaps he's hiding. The warden looks at him. I don't care where he's hiding. He grabs the folder. I want him back. He walks away. The doctors watch him leave. Harleen looks at Crane. You still think Batman is imaginary? Crane smiles. Absolutely. Harleen shakes her head. You're very confident? I am. Maybe too confident. Crane laughs. Fear isn't real. Harleen looks at him. That's an interesting thing for a psychiatrist to say. Part 3. Later that night, Dr. Hugo Strange sits inside his office. The door opens. Dr. Jonathan Crane walks inside carrying a folder. Behind him is Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Strange looks up. What is it? Crane places the folder on his desk. I want approval for Project Shadow. Strange looks at the paperwork. No. Crane's expression changes. You haven't even read it. I don't need to. Project Shadow is designed to reduce aggression among the inmates. I said no. Crane leans forward. These prisoners are unstable. So are most prisoners. Some of them are extremely dangerous. That's why they're here. Crane gestures toward the paperwork. My treatment could make them calmer. Strange closes the folder. Blackgate is in a laboratory. Crane stares at him. Everything is a laboratory. Strange looks at him. No. Crane sighs. Harleen steps forward. Then at least consider reopening Arkham. Strange looks at her. No. Dr. Strange, Arkham is closed. Some of these prisoners need psychiatric treatment. They're receiving treatment. Not enough. Strange stands. Blackgate has doctors. Harleen shakes her head. Blackgate has prisoners who are becoming worse. Strange's expression hardens. Dr. Quinzel? Yes, I run this prison. I know. And I don't need Project Shadow. Crane looks annoyed. Strange continues. And I don't need Arkham Asylum reopened. Harleen looks down. Strange sits back down. The inmates are perfectly capable of being treated here. Crane scoffs. Perfectly capable? Strange looks at him. Yes. He opens a drawer. However, he removes a form. I will authorize weekly psychological evaluations. Harleen looks surprised. Weekly? Every inmate who requires therapy will receive a scheduled session. Crane looks disappointed. And that's it. That's it. Strange puts the form down. Blackgate will remain open. Arkham will remain closed. Project Shadow will not be implemented, and the doctors will continue treating the inmates we have. Harleen looks at Crane. Crane looks back. Neither is satisfied. Strange picks up his pen. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a prison to run. Crane and Harleen leave. The door closes. Strange sits alone. He looks at the stack of inmate files on his desk. One file catches his attention. Batman, subject unknown. Strange stares at it. He slowly opens the file. Inside are photographs of criminals who claim to have encountered Batman. Strange studies them. Then he closes the folder. An imaginary man. He smiles. How fascinating. The recorder clicks off. End of Blackgate interviews, number 5.
Very stupid.
Metropolis Police interviews, number 1. The Archer Earth 1 saga. 1. Gods, Monsters, and Mortals. Part 1. Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the sound of a cassette being inserted into a recorder. A red light turns on. The camera is positioned across a small interrogation room. The Archer sits at the table, his hands cuffed in front of him. He has already been transferred from Gotham to the Metropolis Police Department. A Metropolis detective walks into the room carrying a thin file. He sits across from the Archer. The detective presses the record button. Metropolis Police Department, Interview Room 3. Subject transferred from Gotham City Police custody. He opens the file. Interview begins. The detective looks at the man across from him. State your name. The Archer doesn't answer. The detective waits. Your name. The Archer finally looks up. You already know it. I want you to say it. The Archer smiles. People call me the Archer. That's not your name. It's the name I use. Your real name. Silence. The detective closes the file. Fine, we'll come back to that. The Archer leans back. You seem disappointed. I'm not disappointed. You expected something else. I expected you to be cooperative. The Archer laughs. That's not really my thing. The detective looks through the file. You're being charged with attempted murder. The Archer doesn't respond. You attempted to assassinate the mayor of Gotham City. No. The detective looks up. No. I attempted to assassinate a man. The mayor. Same thing. The detective sighs. You're going to make this difficult. I thought that was the point of an interrogation. The detective studies him for a moment. Why did you try to kill him? The Archer looks toward the camera. Because I was hired. By who? No. I'm not answering that. You understand that refusing to cooperate isn't going to help you. The Archer smiles. I wasn't hired to help myself. The detective writes something down. Let's talk about Gotham. The Archer's smile disappears. What about it? Batman. The Archer looks at him. You've heard of him. Everyone has. Do you believe he's real? The Archer laughs. That's what you people are asking? What? Every cop I've spoken to wants to know about the Batman. The detective leans forward because he's involved in your arrest. He wasn't the reason I got arrested, but you encountered him. Yes, describe him. The Archer pauses. Big. That's all? Big. Anything else? Fast. How fast? Fast enough. The detective waits. The Archer finally continues. He's not normal. Meaning? I shot at him. How many times? Twice. Did you hit him? No. Why? The Archer looks at him. Because he wasn't there anymore. The detective raises an eyebrow. He moved? I don't know. You're an expert with a bow. Yes. And you missed. I didn't miss. The detective looks confused. Then what happened? He wasn't there. The room becomes quiet. The detective slowly writes something down. You're saying he disappeared? Yes. Like a magician? No. Then what? The Archer looks toward the corner of the room. Like a shadow. The detective stops writing. You expect me to believe that? I don't care what you believe. The detective leans back. Is Batman human? The Archer looks at him. I don't know. Do you think he's human? I think. The Archer pauses. He wants people to think he's something else. The detective nods. Why? Fear? Fear? Criminals are afraid of him. And you? The Archer smiles. No. The detective looks at him for several seconds. You're lying. The Archer's smile disappears. I'm not. The detective opens another folder. We have statements from the Gotham officers who arrested you. I bet you do. They say you were carrying specialized equipment. Yes. Multiple bows? Yes. Arrows. Obviously. Explosive arrows. The Archer shrugs. Sometimes you need something bigger. The detective turns a page. Who supplied you? No. Who paid you? No. Was it one of the Gotham crime families? Silence. Black Mask? The Archer doesn't move. Penguin? Nothing. Falcone? The Archer looks toward the detective. You really think you're gonna get anything from me? I'm hoping. The Archer smiles. Then you're gonna be disappointed. The detective closes the folder. Let's talk about your transfer. The Archer looks confused. What about it? You were transferred from Gotham because the Gotham Police Department believes you're connected to a larger criminal organization. I work alone. That's not what they think. They're wrong. They have evidence. Evidence can be wrong. The detective looks at him. Do you know why you're in Metropolis? Because Gotham didn't want me. Wrong. The detective leans forward. Because the Metropolis Police Department has jurisdiction over you now. The Archer smiles. And what exactly are you going to do with me? Keep you in a cell. For how long? As long as the law says. The Archer laughs. That's cute. The detective's expression hardens. You think this is funny? No. The Archer looks at him. I think it's temporary. The detective stares at him. You're confident. I always am. The detective stands. Interview suspended. He reaches for the recorder. Before turning it off, he looks back at the Archer. One last question. The Archer looks up. What? Why the bow? The Archer smiles. Because anyone can pull a trigger. He looks directly into the camera, but it takes skill to kill with an arrow. The detective switches off the recorder. The red light disappears. The room falls silent. The Archer sits alone. For several seconds, he doesn't move. Then he quietly whispers to himself, Gotham. He looks toward the door. What a strange city. End of Metropolis Police Interviews number 1. Star City Interviews number 1. The Man Who Doesn't Speak Earth 1 Saga. 1 God's Monsters and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with a click. A small interrogation room inside the Star City Police Department. A police officer sits across from a masked man in restraints. The officer opens a file. The suspect's name is written across the top. Onomatopoeia. Identity unknown. The officer looks at him. State your name. Silence. The officer waits. Your name. Nothing. He looks at the file. Do you understand me? Nothing. The officer leans forward. You've been arrested for multiple murders. Silence. You were found at one of the crime scenes. Nothing. Did you kill those people? Onomatopoeia slowly turns his head toward the officer. The officer watches him carefully. Nothing. He looks down at his recorder. Okay. He flips a page. Do you know who Green Arrow is? Onomatopoeia stares at him. The officer waits. Nothing. Did Green Arrow stop you? Silence. The officer sighs. You're really not going to talk, are you? Nothing. The officer taps his pen against the table. Fine. He closes the file. I'm going to ask you one last question. Onomatopoeia looks directly at him. Why do you make those sounds? For the first time Onomatopoeia moves, he slowly raises one hand. The officer watches. Onomatopoeia taps his finger against the metal table. Tap, tap, tap. The officer stares at him. Is that supposed to be an answer? Onomatopoeia doesn't respond. The officer turns off the recorder. Interview terminated. The red recording light disappears. Onomatopoeia remains completely silent. End of Star City Interviews number 1. Absolutely. I'll keep it in the same interview recording style as the previous Blackgate stories, with Gun Bunny and Gun Hawk being interviewed together. Blackgate Interviews Volume 1.2, Number 1. Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Interview with Gun Bunny and Gun Hawk, Earth 1 Saga. 1 God's Monsters and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the familiar click of a cassette recorder. A red light turns on. Inside one of Blackgate Prison's interview rooms, Dr. Harleen Quinzel sits at the table. Across from her are 2 prisoners. Gun Bunny sits on the left. Gun Hawk sits on the right. Both are wearing Blackgate prison uniforms. Their hands are restrained to the table. Harleen places 2 files in front of her. She looks at Gun Bunny, then Gun Hawk. Good afternoon. Gun Bunny says nothing. Gun Hawk looks at Harleen. Afternoon, doctor. Harleen opens the first file. Gun Bunny. Gun Bunny looks at her. That's what you call yourself? That's what people call me. Your real name? No. Harleen looks at Gun Hawk. And you? Gun Hawk. Real name? No. Harleen sighs. Wonderful. Gun Bunny smirks. You wanted us. I didn't exactly request you. You know what I mean. Harleen looks down at her notes. Both of you were arrested after an attempted operation involving the penguin. Gun Hawk immediately looks at Gun Bunny. Gun Bunny looks back. Harleen notices. Interesting. What? Gun Hawk asks. No, you both reacted when I mentioned penguin. Gun Bunny shrugs. Everybody knows penguin. Oswald Cobblepot. Neither responds. Harleen watches them. You worked for him. Gun Bunny says nothing. Gun Hawk leans back. That's an accusation. We have evidence. Then why are we talking? Because evidence doesn't tell me why you did it. Gun Hawk smiles. Money. Harleen writes that down. Money. That's usually why. And that's all. Pretty much. Gun Bunny finally speaks. We were professionals. Harleen looked at her. Professionals? Yeah. Assassins? Gun Bunny smiles. You said it. Harleen turns the page. You 2 have worked together before. Sometimes. How long? Gun Bunny shrugs. Long enough? Do you trust each other? Gun Hawk laughs. Absolutely not. Gun Bunny looks at him. Good answer. Harleen smiles slightly. So you're partners who don't trust each other. We're business partners, Gun Hawk says. There's a difference. Big difference. Harleen looks between them. Who was better? Gun Bunny immediately says, me. Gun Hawk says, himself. Gun Bunny looks at him. What? You asked who was better. Exactly. And you answered yourself, because I'm better. Gun Bunny laughs. Harleen shakes her head. I see. She looks through the file. Let's talk about Batman. Both prisoners become quieter. Harleen notices. Interesting. Gun Hawk looks at her. What? You both changed when I said his name. Gun Bunny looks away. Gun Hawk says, we've heard stories. Stories? That's all they are. You don't believe he's real? Gunhawk shakes his head. No. Gun Bunny looks at him. You're lying. Gunhawk turns toward her. Am I? Yes. Harleen smiles. Which one of you thinks Batman is real? Neither answers. Harleen waits. Gun Bunny finally sighs. I don't know. You don't know? I never saw him. But you've heard about him. Everybody has. What have you heard? Gun Bunny looks down. That he isn't human. Gunhawk laughs. That's stupid. Gun Bunny looks at him. You didn't see him either. No. Then you don't know. Gunhawk leans toward Harleen. He's a man. How do you know? Because men are the ones who do this. Do what? Put on costumes. Gun Bunny laughs. You're wearing a mask right now. Gunhawk looks at her. That's different. Harleen smiles. How? Gunhawk pauses. Because mine makes sense. Harleen writes something down. Gun Bunny looks at the recorder. Are you writing all this down? Yes. Why? Because I'm a psychiatrist. Right? Gun Bunny leans back. Then write this down. Harleen waits. Batman is bad for business. Harleen raises an eyebrow. Why? Because people are scared. Criminals? Everybody. Gunhawk nods. She's right. Gun Bunny looks surprised. You agree with me? Don't get used to it. Harleen smiles. So Batman interferes with your work? Exactly. Does that make you want him dead? Gun Bunny shakes her head. No. Gunhawk looks at her. No, he's not worth dying over. Harleen looks at Gunhawk. And you? Gunhawk shrugs. I'd rather not meet him. Why? Because I like breathing. Harleen writes that down. Gun Bunny laughs. That's probably the smartest thing you've said all day. Harleen closes one file and opens the other. Let's discuss the night you were arrested. Gun Bunny's expression changes. We were doing a job. For Penguin? No. Harleen looks at her. No? Gun Bunny looks toward Gunhawk. Gunhawk shakes his head slightly. Harleen notices. You weren't working for Penguin? Gun Bunny smiles. Didn't say that. So you were. Maybe. Harleen looks at Gunhawk. Who hired you? Black Mask? Neither answers. Penguin? Nothing. Someone else? Gunhawk looks at Harleen. You ask a lot of questions. That's my job. Then you should know when not to ask. Harleen smiles. I suppose. She closes the file. One last question. Gun Bunny looks at her. What? Do either of you regret what you've done? Gun Bunny thinks about it. No. Gunhawk answers immediately. No. Harleen looks between them. Not even a little? Gunhawk shakes his head. People like us don't get to worry about regret. Gun Bunny nods. You either do the job or somebody else does. Harleen looks down at her notes. And if you had the opportunity to do it all again? Gun Bunny smiles. I'd probably aim better. Gunhawk laughs. Harleen shakes her head. Interview concluded. She reaches for the recorder. Before she turns it off, Gun Bunny speaks. Doctor? Harleen looks up. Yes? Gun Bunny smiles. If you ever meet Batman, Harleen waits. Don't tell him where we are. Gunhawk laughs. The recording ends. The red light disappears. End of Blackgate Interviews, Volume 1.2, Number 1. Blackgate Interviews, Volume 1.2, Number 2. The releases Earth 1 Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the familiar click of the tape recorder. The red light comes on. This time, Dr. Hugo Strange is sitting behind the desk in his office at Blackgate Prison. A stack of files sits in front of him. He adjusts his glasses and looks toward the recorder. Blackgate Prison Psychiatric and Administrative Recording, Director Hugo Strange. He opens the first file. Following the recent arrests connected to the criminal organizations operating throughout Gotham City, a number of inmates have now been released from Blackgate Prison. Strange turns the first page. The first group consists of several low-level members of Oswald Cobblepot's organization. He looks down the list. These men were arrested during the incident aboard the vessel known as the Final Offer. He closes the file. Despite their association with Cobblepot, the evidence against several of them was insufficient to maintain their incarceration. Strange opens another folder. The second group consists of members associated with Roman Sionis, otherwise known as Black Mask. He pauses. Again, several of these individuals were released after their charges could not be sufficiently connected to their employer. Strange makes another note. The third group consists of members of the Red Hood gang. He looks through the paperwork. Several were arrested during separate operations involving Batman. Strange stops. He looks at the page for a moment. Batman. He writes the word down, then continues. The fourth group consists of members of the Black Skull gang. He closes the folder. Like the other groups, some members were released because the evidence did not establish sufficient grounds to continue holding them. Strange leans back. An interesting pattern has emerged. He folds his hands. Criminal organizations continue operating throughout Gotham. Individual members are arrested, some are convicted, others are released, and the organizations themselves remain. He looks toward the recorder. This presents a problem. Strange turns another page. Many of these individuals claim that Batman was responsible for their capture. He smiles slightly. Some claim he appeared from nowhere. Some claim he was watching them before they knew he was there. Some claim he isn't human. Strange closes the file. I continue to believe that Batman is not a supernatural entity. He pauses. Whether he is one man or several men operating under the same identity remains uncertain. The recorder continues running. Strange looks down at another stack of papers. Penguin's men, Black Mask's men, Red Hood gang members, Black Skull gang members, released. He puts the papers into separate folders. Some will undoubtedly return to criminal activity. He pauses. Others may disappear entirely. Strange looks toward the camera. But eventually, he closes the final folder. Some of them will likely encounter Batman again. The recording ends. Later, inside the Blackgate prison lounge, several doctors sit around a table. Dr. Harleen Quinzel looks at a stack of release forms. How many? A prison administrator looks at her. Quite a few. Penguin's men? Released. Black Masks? Some released. Red Hood? Several. Black Skull? Several more. Harleen sighs. So we're putting criminals back onto the streets. The administrator shakes his head. We're releasing prisoners whose sentences are finished or whose charges didn't hold. I know. Harleen looks down at the paperwork. It just feels wrong. Dr. Jonathan Crane sits across from her. That's because you think prison is supposed to fix people. Harleen looks at him. Isn't it? No. Crane smiles. Prison is supposed to contain them. And when they leave, that's their problem. Harleen looks back at the files. Some of these people are going right back to work for the same organizations. Crane shrugs. Then they'll probably be arrested again. By the police? Crane smiles. Maybe. Harleen looks at him. Or Batman. Crane laughs. Still believing in the imaginary man? Harleen shakes her head. I'm not saying I believe he's supernatural. But you believe he's real. I believe someone is out there. Crane leans back. Harleen looks at him. Maybe. She closes the final file. Either way, those men are back on the streets. The camera remains focused on the stack of release papers. One by one, the names disappear beneath the folders. Penguin's men, released Black Mask men, released Red Hood gang, released Black Skull gang, released. The recording ends. Blackgate Interviews, Volume 1.2, Number 3. The Silent Tiger, Earth 1 Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the familiar click of the tape recorder. The red light turns on. Dr. Harleen sits across from a prisoner wearing a Blackgate uniform. Benjamin Turner. The file in front of Harleen reads, Benjamin Turner, alias Bronze Tiger. Harleen looks at him. Good afternoon, Mr. Turner. Benjamin doesn't respond. Harleen waits. I'm Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Nothing. You've been brought here following your arrest aboard the Final Offer. Silence. You were working with Penguin's people? Nothing. Harleen opens the file. Or Black Mask? Benjamin stares straight ahead. You're not going to answer me, are you? Nothing. Harleen sighs. Fine. She looks through the file. You fought Batman. Benjamin's eyes move slightly. Harleen notices. You recognize the name. No response. Did you believe he was a myth before you fought him? Silence. Do you believe he's human? Nothing. Harleen closes the file. All right. She looks at Benjamin for several seconds. Why did you become an assassin? Nothing. Did you choose this life? Silence. Do you regret it? Benjamin doesn't move. Harleen slowly closes the folder. I suppose this interview isn't going anywhere. She reaches toward the recorder, but before turning it off, she looks at him one last time. Mr. Turner? Benjamin finally looks directly at her. Harleen pauses, but he says nothing. She turns off the recorder. The red light disappears. End of Blackgate Interviews, Volume 1.2, Number 3. Blackgate Interviews, Volume 1.2, Number 4. No answers. Earth 1 Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals. Part 1, Mortals 1.2. The recording begins with the familiar click of a tape recorder. The red light comes on. Benjamin Turner sits alone on one side of the interview table. His hands are restrained. Across from him sits Dr. Leslie Tompkins. Unlike the previous interview, Leslie doesn't immediately open a file. She simply looks at Benjamin. My name is Leslie Tompkins. Benjamin says nothing. I'm not here to interrogate you. Nothing. I'm here because I'd like to understand you. Silence. Leslie waits. You're Benjamin Turner. No response. You're also known as Bronze Tiger. Nothing. Leslie folds hands on the table. I've heard about your fight with Batman. Benjamin doesn't move. I've heard you're an extremely skilled fighter. Silence. I've also heard you were once a very different man. Nothing. Leslie watches him carefully. Did you ever want to be something other than an assassin? Benjamin continues staring forward. Leslie sighs quietly. You don't have to tell me anything. Nothing. But if there's something you'd like to talk about. She pauses. I'll listen. Benjamin remains completely silent. Leslie looks down at her notes. Do you regret what happened aboard the final offer? No response. Do you regret fighting Batman? Nothing. Do you think Batman is a criminal? Silence. Do you think he's a hero? Nothing. Leslie looks at him. Do you think he's human? Benjamin's expression doesn't change. Leslie waits several seconds. Still nothing. She closes her notebook. I spoke with Dr. Quinzel. Benjamin doesn't react. She said you didn't answer any of her questions either. Nothing. Leslie smiles faintly. You're very determined. No response. Leslie stands. She reaches for the recorder. Before turning it off, she looks at Benjamin one final time. I don't know what happened to you, Mr. Turner. Benjamin finally looks at her. Leslie pauses. But whatever happened, she gives him a sympathetic look. It doesn't have to define the rest of your life. Benjamin says nothing. Leslie turns off the recorder. The red light disappears. Benjamin remains sitting alone at the table. The camera continues recording for several seconds. He doesn't move. The tape finally cuts to black. End of Blackgate Interviews, Volume 1.2, Number 4.